Let's discuss Nintendo Digital Event and Squaresoft E3 press conference. Jimmy. Jimmy.
Oh, wow. Yes, we're ready to start filming the Nintendo Digital Event for E3 2015.
Okay, thank you. I will head directly to the stage.
Hello everybody, this is James with RedButtonJamFest.com and welcome to part 4 of Game Dingleberries Let's Discuss E3. For part 1, I went over and reviewed Nintendo World Championship 2015 at Bethesda's press conference, and in part 2, I went over Microsoft and EA's press conferences. If you haven't seen either, boom! Here are the links on the video. Please watch them if you would like to, if you can. But for today, I'm going to break down, analyze, kind of get a little bit nitty gritty. But this is all off the cuff. Just want to, forewarn. But again, I'm going to grade more conferences. And this time, this is the technically E3's Day 1 conferences, which is Nintendo's press conference and Squaresoft's press conference. And to get things fired away, let's start off with the Nintendo press conference. This is the one I was looking forward to for quite a bit, because ever since I heard about the prospect of a new Star Fox game, I just wanted to see actual footage of Star Fox. I love the franchise, and it's been a while since we had a true Star Fox game on the home consoles. And last time we had a game on the GameCube developed in part with Capcom. Then you had a Rare game that was kind of a quasi-Zelda-esque game, and then we had the handheld Command & Assault, I believe, Star Fox, and then Star Fox 64 ported over to the 3DS. But it's been a while since we had just a mainstream Star Fox game, I feel, since Star Fox 64. So I came in here just ready and willing. And right off the bat, Nintendo shows off why they're charming and at the same time creepy. We see puppets. Not only puppets, but Muppets, or do we call them Nuppets? These are puppet versions of Satoru Iwata, of Reggie Fils-Aimé, and Surreal Miyamoto. And it's crazy. Reggie looks kind of creepy, to be honest, but they cracked a lot of jokes, like Reggie's doing push-ups saying, Nintendo 62, Nintendo 63, Nintendo 64, my puppet body is Reggie, which is still pretty awesome. I don't care how corny this beginning segment was. It was funny. It was up the cuff. It was so early in the morning, I was still kind of like waking up. I was like, am I still dreaming? Is this really happening right now? This is really weird, but kind of cool. And it was, it was just kind of this weird craziness to the jokes with these Muppets throughout the whole digital event for Nintendo that kind of held it up. Because really, when you get right down to it, and I'm kind of feel bad, I feel sad, is that it is kind of a disappointment. It really is. This whole digital event, just to get it right off the bat, is pretty disappointing. The actual meat of it. And if you're looking for stuff for Wii U, yeah, you're going to be super disappointed. This conference had way more content that's geared towards the 3DS, which is still selling well for Nintendo, and it's a good system, and I personally have one myself. But if you're looking for Wii U news, you're not really going to get any. And I thought, I know that they weren't going to show Zelda, but at the same time, I thought there was going to be still big news for this event because they pretty much dropped the Ryu bomb on Sunday. So I thought, well, this seems something that's big news, but there's got to be bigger news coming up on Tuesday. But now that I look back at it, I guess all those rumors spilling out about the Ryu pretty much made Nintendo just announce it right away and just get the DLC out of there, versus them actually having bigger news. Because I feel like that Ryu news in this context, if it was also part of this digital event, would have been humongous news and would have supplemented this conference. Otherwise, like I said before, the first, it's a disappointment, but it still had some neat things here and there outside of the puppets. And of course, like I said earlier, Star Fox. I was looking forward to Star Fox. They started right away with Star Fox, which now we know the title of it is Star Fox Zero. And I think it's kind of neat to see Miyamoto go to a Shintoist temple to explain the beginnings of what made him develop Star Fox. And then you see the game itself, and visually, I don't know, it's really weird. So far, a lot of Wii U games actually looked better than what you would think in terms of the hardware. If you look at New Super Mario Brothers, or if you look at Super Mario 3D World, and Mario Kart. These are still really good looking games. Like, Nintendo knows how to juice the hardware, but when I look at this game, unless there's still a lot of polish to go before it's released at the end of this year, it doesn't really look that much better than a GameCube game. And maybe it's just what they're showing, and maybe I am really just looking at this too critically, but I know it's not about visuals, but when I look at it, I was just really surprised that it's not as well versed in its style as I thought it would be. It was cool to still see the portraits. It's still cool to see that there's Fox, that there's Peppy, that there's Falco, and that there's that goddamn Slippy. But still, they had to have Slippy in there. But what, and it's from what I'm guessing, not just because of the title, but I think it's also a prequel because you also see that evil pig character that joins that Star Wolf team. So I wonder, and I know he betrays the original Star Fox team, so it makes me curious if this is a prequel or if this is just some kind of weird alternate timeline. I don't know. But what this Star Fox is, they're showing that you look through your cockpit at the gamepad, and you have to move the gamepad around to aim as the stick is used to move the R-Wing on the television screen, and then the buttons are assigned to different maneuvers. And I have not handled this game yet to say what it feels like, but it sounds weird, and from a lot of impressions from people that are on the show floor, it's been pretty mixed. But what I also heard is there's an option to turn that off, which I hope so that you could just straight up just control it without motion controls, because that would be that. I think that would be a necessary thing, but who knows? Maybe it'll surprise me it's motion control, and I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. But I'm guessing I'm going to be turning it off. But overall, it came off pretty underwhelming, and that's sad. I guess I was expecting too much from Nintendo. I know that they don't have a big commitment to online, but I had this dream that it would have had a 4-player co-op because you had 4 different characters, or it had some sort of online modes. Maybe it's stuff that they haven't really elaborated on still, and maybe I just didn't hear of it, but they definitely didn't really go off too much, except it has a unique play scheme, it has a unique title, and your R-Wing transforms into a chicken-like leg thing, and then you still have the Landmaster tank, but that transforms into kind of a low altitude flight vehicle, and then you have essentially this kind of helicopter gyroscope, whatever they call it, the gyrocopter kind of vehicle again, but no submarine, not like Star Fox 64. And yeah, I came away underwhelmed. At first I was cheering, I really was. I was, even by myself watching this conference, as sad as it sounded, I was clapping, because I like to clap. And I do it right there. But I just came away like, oh boy, please come out better than I think it's going to come out. And then, of course, Nintendo, as I said before, if you're expecting much Wii U conference in this digital event, you're not going to get it. And it makes me wonder, before, when they made an announcement of their new system, the NX, I thought that they were going to give a 5-year split between the Wii U and the next system. The Wii U came out originally 2012, so what my prediction is, in part, is the next system will come out 2017. But with the lack of Wii U games, that kind of tells me that Nintendo might be in a transition phase. And even Reggie himself kind of dropped the clues that us as a company is transforming. And I might be reading too much into it, but he did, within the same breath, talk about that they're going to show the NX the next year. Which makes me very curious as if Nintendo really is working on titles to come out primarily for the next system at launch. And also, by the same token, maybe making Zelda a cross-platform game like Twilight Princess was for the GameCube and Wii. And that's what I'm actually thinking, that there is a good possibility that the NX might actually come out next holiday season. I still give that about a 33.333 repeating % chance. I still feel that for the most part it'll probably come out early or later 2017. But I'm now going to be less surprised if they did show it off next to E3 and it's within the confines of the year coming out. Because even then, he didn't really quite say that the NX is going to be revealed at E3. So Nintendo, for all we know, next February, next March, could show off the NX, elaborate more on its launch titles and release date at E3, have the plans going on with the retailers in the background, set up this market, and then that fall have a new Zelda cross-platform for both games with another couple games that demonstrate the new system for a holiday release of 2016. And that's still a possibility. And when coming away after seeing a dearth of console titles, it really does make me think that Nintendo is focusing big time on NX, and it might be coming out sooner than later. But to move on to his digital event and not get too sidelined there, They also revealed that they are supporting Skylanders Superchargers with a Bowser and Donkey Kong figures that on the base you could switch between being used with Skylanders Superchargers game, which is a new Skylanders game, and or with the Wii itself as an amiibo, which they don't really show why these will be working as amiibos yet, but I guess it's pretty interesting. We do have to regard the fact that Skylanders is pretty much the OG of this toy utilizing NFC-based video game concept before Disney Infinite jumped on it, and before Nintendo jumped on it with the amiibos. So for them to have that partnership with Skylanders, I don't know how much of a boon it is. I know Skylanders still appeals to younger masses, and majority of Wii U sales is towards younger masses, that this might help bolster the sales in the holiday season, but for the most part, not the biggest news to me, and I kind of just, my mind just kind of started farting away like, okay, Donkey Kong and Bowser are in Skylanders. All right, next up. Then they showed a bunch of not Wii U titles, because I wish they did. They show off a bunch of 3DS titles, one being Triforce Heroes, which looks like a Four Swords sequel, and done in the style of Link Between Worlds on the 3DS, where you have 3 Links now, or they're competing as the heroes of this new tale, and they have to team up together. I suppose there's no voice chat in this game, which seems audacious, but you have these little emojis, these little emoticons of that could do different orders and stuff like that. You can stack the links together to solve puzzles or fight bosses, and then you also wear different costumes, and that gives you abilities. Just like the Mask have done in Majora's Mask, now you have these dresses and costumes for Link and Triforce Heroes. And I actually thought it was kind of charming when they had the developers talk about the game. One of them pretty much flat out said, we tried to eat 4, but 4 was too tall. And I got a good chuckle out of that. I mean, okay, well, that's why you did do 4 then. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You could have came up with a little more, I guess at least he didn't lie about it. It was pretty much, yeah. It just would look weird. That's why it's 3 players. But Triforce Heroes, it looks like a solid title, but my question comes into 4 is, do you really need to play with people all the time? Which would put a hamper on things. I'm not trying to sound antisocial, but I do like solitary experiences, especially with Zelda games, first off. And second off, my other question is there really no other form of communications? Then that kind of really sucks. I mean, I either have to plan out days where you have your friends really nearby with their 3DSs so you could talk to each other, or you have to have your phone on Skype or something on the side, and god damn it, Nintendo, could you support voice chat more often, please, or maybe even text bubbles? Anyway, what they also showed off was that Hyrule Warriors is coming out now to 3DS, and they're calling it Hyrule Warriors Legends, when I should think they should call it Legend of Hyrule Warriors. Hyrule Warriors. Almost, I think I said Hyrule Oreos there. That sounds like a delicious cross merchandise there, Nintendo. You should team up on that. They could be like the green cream Oreos that you eat and you cherish, and every other box comes with the ocarina. Anywho, sorry about that bad joke. Outside of Hyrule Warriors Legends, which it's always been kind of a decent Dynasty-esque game. I mean, I never really thought it was crazy when I played it, but there are fans, and now you can have that portable experience. After that, they showed off a game that I guess people are infuriated about, which is Metroid Prime Federation Force. As I mentioned before in the first part of this Less Discussed series, I talked about Blast Ball, and that being a stage that people had to compete for in that tournament. And the fact that it had slightly a Metroid Prime style. Well, now they revealed that Blast Ball is a multiplayer component in this new game where you play as 4 non-Samus-esque weird mech characters that are battling creatures, and then you have multiplayer on top of this, just a Blast Ball and co-op, and for some reason this is still Metroid. I know they tried this before with Metroid Prime. I believe the game's name was Metroid Prime Hunters, but even the mercenaries in the context had their own stories and style that looked close to Samus's. This is just kind of flat out like it's a sci-fi game with some Metroid tones, but I don't really get much Metroid from this either, so I can understand why people don't want it to be called Metroid Prime. And I almost feel like this game was probably originally called Federation Force, and then Nintendo, just like they did with Star Fox Adventures, which, for all those in the know, Star Fox Adventures is a game on the GameCube from Rare. It was originally known as Dinosaur Planet, but Miyamoto stepped in and said, hey, it should feature Star Fox characters so it could sell. Essentially, that is the gist of that story, and I feel like that's what happened here. They created this game I'm guessing like Federation Force, or where they were given a name, maybe Blast Force. And Nintendo probably jumped in and said, it looks kind of like one of our franchises, Metroid, and I think if we just put Metroid Prime on this, it will sell more. I think it just caused a lot more angst amongst the gaming community. I mean, I haven't personally played a game yet, and they didn't really show a heck of a lot. Maybe Samus does pop up, and maybe this is probably one of the best Metroid-themed games ever, as atrocious as that sounds right now, but we don't really see too much of it. But from what I gather, it doesn't really seem like a Metroid-based game, so it's kind of like, why? Why call it that? But Nintendo definitely knows what to name their stuff, and they also show off Fire Emblem Fates, another game, I believe, for the 3DS, and then they show this Shinigami. I'm sorry if I mess up this title, but it's a cross game. But all I got was it's weird Japanese singing. I have nothing against Japanese culture, don't get me wrong, I love it, but it's just weird Japanese singing, busty women, and fights. But then, yeah, title. It didn't really show up much gameplay. It was really weird. It was a moment where I was just kind of staring like, And I think around that time, too, if I'm mistaken, Iwata, you see a puppet Iwata on his desk, holding up a banana, looking at it, then looking at the screen, and that was it. And I also have to say, back to the puppets, I do love the fact that we see Reggie and Miyamoto dance, and then we just see Iwata join in later. Just weird moments of those puppets. Again, I tell you, that's incredibly weird, but fun. But also, get back to the games. They showed off Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii U, which I know Xenoblade has a fan base. I tried Xenoblade, and I guess I'm just not a fan of that style of game, just to be frank. So when I saw it, as much as I like seeing mech fights and stuff of that nature, I was like, okay, well, I guess that's going to please some peeps, so that's cool, but move on. And they moved on to Animal Crossing, which Animal Crossing has always been a curiosity. They showed a new Animal Crossing for the 3DS, which is like a house maker, essentially. And I was like, okay, a weird side game. And then they said they're making a Wii U title, and that's when my curiosity picked up. Like, oh, maybe they're going to show this. They're going to surprise us with the Animal Crossing game, homage to like Animal Crossing the GameCube or Animal Crossing that was released in the Wii. Instead, they show a weird Fortune Street / Monopoly based board game with Animal Crossing characters where you use Amiibo figures. And I think that's another game that pretty much should not been called Animal Crossing and was pretty much destined to be another game altogether. Are Animal Crossing fans looking forward to a board game for the Wii U? If so, please let me know, because I'm not really getting it, Nintendo. I'm sorry. And then what they showed next was probably one of the things I was really looking forward to as well, which was Yoshi's Woolly World. And Yoshi is cute. Him in plush form as Amiibos also look cute. As much as I don't really go towards buying Amiibos, I might actually get that Amiibo just because of the different material. And they had a nice lady talk about it. Yes, I call her nice lady, and her name eludes me, but I do apologize. But she seemed cool. And she just recounted some stories, and they showed the gameplay, and they showed the fact that if you do put Amiibo on there, you can have a Mario Yoshi. And you can just have these weird amalgam, like these little cool looks of Yoshi, and it's so cute. And it looks like a fun game, and to know that it's coming out in America in October, it's kind of sad knowing that it's coming out real soon in Europe and in Australia, so we have to wait another 4 months. Bastards. But I look forward to Yoshi. But that's a title that we all knew beforehand in depth anyway, so it wasn't really a big surprise. And what they also shot was Yokai Watch, which everyone says that it's going to be like the next Pokemon, or they're going to try to make it the next Pokemon in America, where you have that RPG eccentric collecting, but it's ghosts kind of theme to it. It piqued my interest watching it, but I don't have too much behind it. But what I thought was cool is what they showed after. And again, Yokai Watch is another 3DS game. Mario and Luigi's Paper Jam. Now they're taking the Mario Luigi RPG series, which is really fun. You have their series included Mario and Luigi Inside Bowser's Story, Mario and Luigi Dream Team. Such great titles like that. They're meshing it with Paper Mario, which with Paper Mario for the N64 was fun. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, not Thousand Geezer Door. Thousand Year Door was fun as well. And Super Paper Mario I really liked as well, even though it was a platformer. I love the story to it. So to see them go together it seems like a cool title. The style looks a little weird, but it's kind of like both universes are so quirky in their nature in both their stories that it still makes sense. And it seems like a crossover of Mario's that was waiting to happen inevitably. And I'm just glad to see that it happened. And right after that, they did show a surprise for the Wii U. And this is actually what I like. And I know it probably general populace is not a big thing, but I love Mario Tennis for the N64. I still play it to this day with a group of friends. And it is fun. It is a real fun action arcadey spent on tennis, but still grounded. And it has your favorite characters, but each character handles differently. If you could pick up a copy for N64, I really do recommend it. It's a fun party game. It's not your Mario Golf, Mario Baseball. This stands out on its own, I feel. And I feel Mario Tennis is a game that's worth a sequel. And they announced a sequel to it that's coming out this year for the Wii U, known as Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. Don't get confused with the upcoming Ultra Smash Brothers. And I'm kidding there. But Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, it looks all right. I don't know. It's weird when I start seeing Peach and Bowser get big, so I'm kind of hoping that you could turn off some of those options to make it play more in line with Mario Tennis that came out on the 3DS and the Mario Tennis that came out on the N64, because if it's going to be a little overdone action and not have those intricacies that were still evident in the N64 version, it might not be as good. And I'm hoping that it's not too off-the-wall crazy. I still hope that it's still got those simulation-esque principles behind the action, because N64's Mario Tennis, as I said, it's just like a good mashup. It wasn't too over the top. At the same time, it wasn't like you had 50 buttons, and it was not like you're playing topspin. So I'm hoping this Mario Tennis is up to par. Yeah. And then we get a segment with Miyamoto and Takashi, and they're talking about developing the original Super Mario Brothers, and they have their graph paper, and they show off making levels. And this part of the whole thing I thought was really interesting. How Miyamoto explained how he created a low height barrier so that you had to hit the mushroom to discover that the mushroom was a benefit versus the Goomba, and I thought it was kind of cool. And then they show a game that is not a surprise because you've seen a lot of it before, but Super Mario Maker still looks really good. I don't know about the date of September 11th, to be honest, but I am looking forward to this game coming out. And I like the fact that you use your amiibos to change Mario, and that you can make levels and grade these levels, and the people who create levels have to beat the level for it to be posted. And there's just a lot of really cool things going for this game. You have the Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, and Super Mario U style of gameplay, and with their own tenants there. And it looks like a fun game. And when they showed that off, and they showed the Let's Do the Super Mario, and that was a really cool way to end off. And I think Nintendo ended off the conference actually pretty strongly. But like I said before, it was disappointing because there wasn't really much surprises. There wasn't really much Wii U content. And it was kind of a mixed bag. And especially after last year's digital event, I thought last year's digital event really nailed things. And I actually believe that Nintendo had a good idea by not doing the live press conferences after seeing last year's. But after seeing this one, I was really more puzzled than anything else. And just grading this digital event. I mean, I know Nintendo does a lot more throughout the day with their Treehouse, and they have done the Nintendo World Championship, but just grading this digital event alone, I would personally give it a C+. It still has some charm, it still has some fun. It still had a few games that were notable, but then the big ones you thought were going to be there weren't there. Were underwhelming, and by that I mean like Star Fox. And then there's other games that are just really weird, peculiar games. And then the fact that they pretty much mentioned the Enix coming next year and then showed lack of Wii U titles really doesn't give much confidence or faith to people that are Wii U owners watching this conference. If you're a 3DS owner, you probably would grade this conference higher than I have. But looking at an average, if you were just to grade on Wii U content, I would give this a D+. But based on the other content that they showed off and kind of just giving a rough average in my head, that's where I came up with the C+ for Nintendo, because it still was a fun conference to watch. It was definitely more entertaining than EA's, but it was not on par with the other two guys. It was not on par with Microsoft or Sony in terms of its announcements or its surprise. And it seemed kind of lifeless and flat at parts too. It's weird. I feel like Nintendo needs to have an audience again now. 2 of the 3 digital events did not work. I just feel like, why not? They're already spending the money for audience for the Nintendo World Championship. Make that in both. Make that and your conference hall at the same time and talk about new games. Why the hell not? Why not put the two together and make it one mega event Sunday that's just Nintendo stuff? Could you imagine that? If they had the whole championship thing interspersed with announcements for new games and then ended off with the humongous game announcements with that crowd of Nintendo fanatics and pro gamers? Can you imagine that? I really honestly think they should put the two together. I know most of the time would be devoted to the challenges until World Championship, but wouldn't that be fun to watch rounds of gamers fight off and then see a cool game drop off that's like a quick challenge or a quick announcement? And then maybe 30 minutes after, 45 minutes after the championship is won, they could go on to maybe show off some of the new games, the new hardware and things of that nature. Like, that would be really cool. And they could just have Sunday sequestered off to that. They don't have to be on Tuesday necessarily. It might as well. I mean, at this point, they already have the audience in their palm of their hands when they do that. So, Nintendo, get on that.
Hey, Fox, do a barrel roll.
Yeah, come on, Fox. Do a barrel roll.
Yeah.
Barrel roll? I can do better than that. Check this out.
But enough about Nintendo. Let's move on. Later in the day, we had Square, and this is one of Square's first conferences, and they've done this in a more modest setting. This is definitely not as big or elaborate as Ubisoft's or EA's, but content-wise, it was still just as big, if not bigger, in my opinion. They start off with Just Cause 3, which looks like a frickin' fun game. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It plays around with physics and explosives in very fun ways for this new generation of systems. I love Just Cause, and the little latch, like little hook, comes out of your arm. And I really can't wait for Just Cause 3. So they start off with that. And then they showed off Nier, new project. I never played Nier, so I don't really know the significance of this outside of just little bits and pieces here and there. So please forgive me. And I also forgive you for mentioning this, but my God. This guy, I believe his name was Toko Yara, came out with a weird moon face mask. And I can't help but just... it's ingrained in my memories. I think I'm going to wake up in a cold sweat just having nightmares about that. And it was one of those things where, is that a character from Nier? If anyone would lie to me on that, I don't understand the significance of it. If he has really bad stage fright, wow, that is quite a way to try to solve it. It does stand out. I'm not going to blame him on that. And what they also showed off was Rise of the Tomb Raider, which what I do applaud them for is they didn't show the same trailer that they did at Microsoft. They showed some new stuff. They also showed how detailed the Lara Croft model is in terms of taking damage and having blood and dirt on her. And what I also thought was cool is you can see her go through the tombs, and you can see like these bugs and caterpillars, these disgusting things going into the skeleton's mouth and webbing. Like, the details of this game look gorgeous. I am getting more and more psyched over this game every time I see it. And to latch onto that, they showed another Tomb Raider game, but this is a mobile game based off of the Hitman Go, known as Lara Croft Go, which these are kind of like, turn-based gameplay style. And Hitman Go was quite a hit, critical hit. So to see Lara Croft Go kind of go in that same kind of cute style might actually work out well. It's kind of interesting that Square, does show mobile games, but unlike EA, which I know I didn't really touch on this with the EA talk, but EA showed Minions Rush? Minions, I forgot the title, but it's a Minions-based game where it's like a building simulator thing with minions. Compare that to Lara Croft Go and then the Kingdom Hearts game that Square showed. I think Square actually has it when it comes to mobile games just by this E3 press conference alone in terms of designing them. And to get off on Kingdom Hearts, outside of showing Kingdom Hearts a mobile game, they did show off Kingdom Hearts 3, which looks fun. I think it's pretty cool that you could call up amusement rides as part of your tax in a battle, and it's looking increasingly better. I'm just wondering if they're going to incorporate a Star Wars or a Marvel world into this now that Disney has both. And Kingdom Hearts, it just has a huge fan base, so, good on them. And it's kind of funny that one of the audience members, after they showed that, he was like, "Thank you" to Hashimoto. And I believe, I was reading posts, I believe that's a YouTuber, that's HMK. If I got that wrong, please forgive me. Please forgive me. But outside of that, they also showed off the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is just the same trailer, essentially, from the PlayStation conference, so no new news there. And they also saw World of Final Fantasy, which they also saw at the Sony conference. And I know I didn't really talk about this during my Sony conference review, but World of Final Fantasy is taking different Final Fantasy heroes, meshing them together with these other two new heroes, and it seems like it's being done both in a chibi style, like the old school Final Fantasy, and then like a realistic style of body proportions. Not much was revealed of it. I'm curious, and the title is pretty cool, so let's get going. They also show off Hitman again, but they showed different things about Hitman, unlike the Final Fantasy VII reveal. Remake trailer they showed again. They actually showed some new stuff for Hitman. They talked about the fact that it's going to have free content that's community driven, over time. So it gets increasingly interesting. And then back to JRPGs, we get Star Ocean's getting a new game known as Star Ocean Integrity and Faithfulness. What a freaking good title that is. If I thought South Park Fracture Butthole was great, Star Ocean Integrity and Faithfulness, not juvenile or it's meant to be funny, but what a stoic title that is. I sound like I'm an English, have a doctorate in my English degree just reading that. Either that or I'm really stupid. Probably that. But Star Ocean, I never really played much Star Ocean. I always thought it was interesting, the original one, so hope it turns out well. And what they did show off after that is something I was really interested in, which is Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I loved the first Deus Ex game. I did not really care for Deus Ex 2, and I did like the recent Deus Ex game that came out for the last gen. So Deus Ex Mankind Divided, taking Adam Jensen and into a world where people distrust Auggies, or the augmented people, is a really cool concept. And again, they make great trailers for that game. If you want to see one of my favorite trailers of all time, watch Deus Ex, the one prior to Mankind Divided. Sorry if I forgot the subtitle too. I believe it was Invisible War, or that could have been Deus Ex 2's subtitle. Anywho, it's off the cuff, but the last Deus Ex title's first reveal trailer was incredible in terms of music and epic scale. And then what they showed after that was they announced a new company that's working for them, which is known as the Tokyo RPG Factory. Pretty much flat out says it. They're based in Tokyo, and they make RPGs. And they showed off some concept art for a game they're working on known only as Project Setsuna. And it's supposed to have some good talent behind it, and that's all we know. So essentially, Square is showing us a game that's pre-alpha and letting us know that they are working on something new. And that's overall the Squaresoft's conference. And, there were some weird translations here and there. Some of the hosts didn't really know how to present too well, but these are game developers. These are not public speakers or orators. But for the most part, even with the modest setting, there's some pretty cool games that were shown off. And I think they did a good job showing off good chunks of games here and there. They did re-show stuff that was shown in other conferences, so it wasn't like this humongous boon for them. But overall, I think it was a fun conference. I didn't really have too much problems with it. It was slow in some parts, and then the end part with the president trying to do a speech was really long or protracted with his broken English. I do apologize. It's hard for him to speak English. I do understand that. And I did think it was kind of cute to see all the developers go hand in hand at the end and kind of like accept the audience applause. It's kind of cool to see that they're all interconnected together, the developers, and it seemed more personable than definitely EA's conference. So if I were to rate this is actually a hard one for me to rate, because my gut would rate it a little bit higher, but then as I think about it more analytically, I feel like it should have a more modest score. So if I were to give this a rating, I probably would end up giving it a B-. It did show off some cool stuff for Kingdom Hearts, and it did talk about content. It was kind of a cock tease in parts about we're going to make an announcement about an announcement with Final Fantasy VII. It's the same thing they did with the PlayStation 4 reveal thing when they're talking about they're going to talk more about Final Fantasy. It's like announcements on announcements. Don't make those announcements. If you really are going to talk about more about details about a game, just talk more about the game, or say you'll hear there's that game. Wait for more details, and don't just play along like we will talk more about more. Bye. But overall, I give it a B-. Pretty solid conference overall. And I know there was a PC Gamer conference, but I'm going to be honest, I watched about half of it, and I didn't really care for it as much. I play PC games, but not as avidly as I do with console games. So for me to give a personal opinion of the PC Gamer conference, I probably would be the most iffy person to go to for my ideas of how PC gaming's going. I'm pretty much casual when it comes to PC gaming, that I'm not the representation for that. But I would say that what they did show seemed kind of cool. I did like the coaster world kind of stuff, or Planet Coaster I should say, but that's because I play a lot more simulation games on PC or more indie titles with Steam. But, you know, PC Gamers Conference was and so I didn't really watch too much of it to really give it a fair rating. So besides that, if I were to rate all these conferences, now that I went over them with these series, I went over Bethesda, Microsoft, EA, Ubisoft, Sony, and Nintendo and Square. The best one, in my opinion, right now is Microsoft by a hair above Sony. I mean, Sony comes freaking close. It is almost a flip a coin with me. I almost feel like I'm about to rate them the same. It really is just a hair difference between those two. They both did exceptional conferences. Followed up with Bethesda and Ubisoft doing some very solid conferences, and then Square doing a fun one, and then Nintendo doing a pretty much an average conference, and then going down from there, you got EA. So we don't want to talk about EA again. Not the worst conference ever, but not the best. But again, I want to say thank you all for listening. I look forward to discussing more, not only about just E3, but other big things in gaming as well, in Game Dingleberries Let's Discuss. And also, we do reviews and Let's Plays with our Game Dingleberries series. And you can find more of these videos not only on YouTube, but also on redbuttonjamfest.com. And not only do we talk about video games, we do talk about things such as history, science, things. I know that sounds kind of general, but we do touch about all sorts of different topics in our articles and podcasts and videos. And if you haven't already, I would suggest visiting the site. I know, shameless plug. And if you really do like to see more content like this, please subscribe. I really would appreciate it. And I do appreciate you all taking your time out of your days to listen to these videos as well. I do really appreciate it. And I do look forward to tackling more stuff in the future. And if you want to email me with suggestions or comments, you're more than welcome to. My email address is jimwa@redbuttonjamfest.com. Again, this has been a phenomenal E3, and I look forward to talking more about all sorts of fun stuff in the future. Love you all. Take care. And game on.